right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show where we are here to answer your questions, walk through this slate, show you what we're doing in the domination station. And today we have a special guest, the one and only Jay Sikhemi. How are you doing, Jay? Good to have you.
I'm good. What's up, guys? It's
Yeah,
good to be on.
good to have you. And for those of you who don't know, you've been on an awesome run, man. You won like 20K last week, maybe the week before that. You won 4K last night. You've just been on a heater.
Yeah.
How's that feeling right now?
I gotta thank the GOAT, Scott Newman, that process. That once that process came, I tried it, and that was it.
All right,
It
let's
just
go ahead
took
and
off
talk
from
about
there.
it then. The process that you've been using, can you talk to us a little bit about the settings you use in the domination station? And for those of you who are new, the domination station is the tool that we all use a little bit differently, and we'll talk through some of those processes. But Jay, would love to just kind of see if you could show us how you've been using the DS here recently.
Yeah. So I start off. I go to the min salary. I make sure it's 49,800, and then since it's 7 or more games, uh, I go optimal and 3 uniques, and then however many lineups. I've moved the slider to 20 fantasy points, the range. And then for 7 or more games, 5 or more games, you go to max 3 players per team. And then I'll refresh all the way till like 5 minutes before lock.
Okay.
And then I'll run it. And then with all the news coming up, I'll run. What else? Let me run this.
Mm-hmm. And then
One
once you get
second.
the lines in and you're downloading them, what do you do from there?
From there, I'll download the contest file
Mm-hmm.
from DK or FanDuel. I'll download the lines. I'll put them into Google Sheets, and then I'll paste them on the Google Sheets, and then I'll hit data and randomize range. I'll randomize all the lines,
Mm-hmm.
and then copy and paste it into the DK or the FD file,
Mm-hmm.
and then wherever it lands, it's just a look at a draw. I'm gonna take something down.
Yeah, so that's your own little spin on it, a little bit there, right, Sikhemi? Like that's
Yeah,
a little bit of you
yeah,
in there, right?
that's it. And right now I'm getting a lot of Jared Butler.
Yeah, I hear you. You have a lot of Jared Butler. You have your own little spin to this too. I like that. I like that, man. And so I know contest selections also really big for you. You're not you're playing some of the larger GPPs, but you're also playing some of the smaller field contests on FanDuel. That's the one you won the 20K in. Can you
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about your thought process behind contest selection?
So I would jump into every single entry possible on FanDuel, and then I'll do the $5.55
Mm-hmm.
FanDuel. It's like the mini max, but 5.55.
Yeah.
And then I'll do 100 lines there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do the 25 max $3 now. They went up from 222 to $3. And then
That's nothing to you
I
now, though.
I
I
won
know.
the 20K. Yeah. So I won the 20K on the NBA Slam. So now I feel like I'm married to it. So I
Yeah.
gotta play it every slate. I'm in the Slam, and it's been good. It's been working out.
Love that. Love that. All right, man. Well, we'll go ahead and talk through this slate. And Jay, we're definitely going to want to get your insight as well as you kind of talk through the strat on it and just kind of see what your exposures look like in comparison to ours. Because I always love
Okay.
just kind of getting some different perspectives because there's a lot of different ways you can use the domination station. I've won 100K using the DS in a completely different way. Brandon's took down multiple tournaments for using the DS his own way and with single entry. And then Jay also just gave y'all another perspective on him taking down 20K multiple times using Scott's process with his spin on it too. So would love to go ahead and talk through these games. Starting off, we have maybe one of the more interesting games in the sense of right now, none of these guys are standing out for me. I don't think we're going to get a lot of exposure to the Celtics, but they're all questionable. So it's kind of hard to talk about them. Brandon, curious to get your thoughts on these guys at this point.
Yeah, as of now, this team is a easy fade for the time being. Thank God this is one of the first games of the night, so it's pretty much just a sit and wait situation here. Because you never know what the Celtics are going to do. Like Tatum could sit out and Brown could play, or White could sit out and vice versa. Like they can do whatever. So they're a little too unpredictable to try to guess. So sit and wait. And if some guys get rolled out, then I'll revisit this team.
Yeah. And then for me right now, I'm not getting any exposure to the Celtics, as y'all can see. What about you, Jay? Any of these guys showing up for you?
I have 0
across the board. And one thing you'll see,
absolutely none.
Yeah, it's just kind of like hands off for now. One thing you'll see for all of us across the board is as we get news, and Jay, I believe for you, between each game, we'll rerun the DS, we'll late swap, and then kind of update things from there, right? Sweet. So nothing for the Celtics now, but that will quickly change depending on how news develops. The Heat side of things is just a little bleh. They're not standing out for me too much as of right now. When it comes to injury news, the usual guys from this team's missing. There's not really anyone overly exciting. I mean, Jovic is out, but, Burks is out. Doesn't change things too much for me. B-Dubs, what about you? Are you looking at any of the Heat?
No, this side of the ball is pretty gross too. You can always make a case for Hero or Bam with their upside, and we've seen many times that you can put some points up against this Boston team because they have some bad nights quite often, even though they're good overall. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two popped off, but I don't think it's something I could force. If majority of the stars get ruled out on the other side, I may consider it, but even then it's still kind of a stretch.
Yeah, the ownership is so low on a nice 7-game slate. Everything in me wants to try to find a reason to play these guys, but it really doesn't make sense for me. Like you said, Brandon, I think if there's some injuries on the other side, it could be interesting, but yeah, I don't love it. Sick of me. What are your thoughts? Are you getting any of the Heat?
I don't know. I like some Wiggins. He's priced good, and he's getting a lot of minutes.
Okay.
And if where's minutes is going down, so you could see Highsmith tonight.
Yeah. I don't disagree, and especially if guys like Tatum and Brown are out, the matchup for Wiggins gets a lot more interesting and enticing. I don't think that's a bad low-owned play at all, especially at 7% ownership. I think that could be a good call. So definitely one to keep an eye out for. I'm not pulling the trigger on it yet. Jay, for you, when you like a guy like Wiggins, like, are you doing anything to make him show up, or is that more of a single entry play for you?
That's more maybe I would take a flyer on a single entry, but I'll let the DS rip and just trust it.
Okay.
Like hashtag trust the process. You gotta roll with it.
Yeah. In Jesus we trust. We will see what happens there. All right. So next up, we have the Pacers going up against the Sixers. This is a spot where I thought I think this is a spot where you can get different pretty easily because of the low ownership. But I don't feel great about it, but I'm still doing it. As you can see, I have a 16% min on Halliburton. His ownership is going up. It was 8% just like 20 minutes ago. Now it's 11. So he's getting less and less sneaky as the slate continues, which is making my interest go down, to be honest. Jay, you're shaking your head. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah. I think he's gonna play less for the big game tomorrow.
Yeah. That's not a bad call, not a bad prediction.
He won't play a lot.
Are you seeing any
I
of the
don't think he's going to play a lot today.
In your line?
Not really. I got Mathurin and Neesmith. That's it.
Like around field weight exposure or a little bit lower?
Yeah, field weight.
Okay, cool. What about you, Brandon? Where are you?
I'm in the same boat as you. I didn't go quite as high, but I have a 10% man on Hallie. He can be frustrating at times. He can either get you 30 points or 60 points. So I think this spot is soft enough to where we could definitely see a ceiling game, and 8,700 is too cheap for his ceiling. So definitely don't mind taking that shot. If you want to get risky too, especially if you think this game blows out, I don't mind forcing in some Thomas Bryant. He's one of my one of my favorite low owned cheapies tonight. So as long as he sees around 20 minutes, we know he's a great points per minute guy. Definitely don't mind taking a flyer on him as well. And then the obvious, if Siakam gets rolled out, I mean, we're going to probably be playing quite a few of these guys, but I guess we'll wait and see what happens with that.
Okay. And for you, Brandon, like when you like a guy like Thomas Bryant, how are you going to make him show up a little bit more for you? Or are you going to do anything?
I'll probably put a 10% min on him. That's usually what I do if the DS isn't giving you guys like that, but you have a gut feeling on somebody. Always put a min on them. I think that's helped both of us. That's kind of like the difference maker and what's help us take down tournaments. So yeah.
I knew you were going to say you were going to put a min on him, but I didn't know you were going to say 10%. That was a little bit higher than I thought you were going to go.
I mean, 5% will probably be good enough, but
yeah, 5%.
That's rough.
I hear you. Just made me really nervous with that number. For me, if Siakam gets ruled out, I like the Bryant call a lot more, just from like a usage standpoint. Siakam's questionable right now, so it's more of a wait and see situation for me, but we'll see what actually happens. Halliburton's the only one I have a min on. I have 16% right now, but I'm going to lower it to 12. Again, I just don't feel overly passionate about this play, so I'm not going to force it when the sim model was pretty lukewarm on Halliburton. The matchup's nice, but Halliburton's been all over the place, and Jay, I think you might be onto something with the game tomorrow as well, which is part of why I wouldn't be shocked if Siakam misses. Yep. So, yeah. Oh, Siakam's in.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. Well, that makes me not like these guys at all, pretty much, besides the 12% min on Halliburton. So, next up, we have the Sixers side of things, and, you know, the trend of the Q tags continues. We have Kelly O questionable, Andre Drummond questionable, Justin Edwards questionable, Alex Reese is questionable. Doesn't really matter too much. Paul George, we already know is out. Grimes, we already know is out. Jared McCain is out. Lonnie Walker. Okay, I'm done. A lot of these guys are out. Is basically the situation here. Who's standing out for you, Brandon, for the Sixers?
I think the obvious, of course, is Jared Butler. He's going to be one of the chalkiest guys on the slate with Maxey and now Lonnie Walker out too, and probably will be even more chalky if any of these other Q tags get rolled out. So he'll definitely be a core play tonight. And then I'm forcing in Jeff Doughton as well. I put a 10% min on him. He's been seeing 20 plus minutes and has been looking good, and just another low owned value play I want to throw in the mix. Ricky Council, someone I'm considering as well, but he's more of a wait and see, depending on what happens with Edwards and Oubre. So if either one of them gets rolled out, he's going to be somebody I want exposure to at that price. And then, of course, if Drummond gets rolled out, I'm going to want some exposure to Bona, because he's someone else who's been playing really well with the minutes he's been seeing. So most of these guys are wait and see, but so far it's just Butler and Doughton for me.
Yeah,
I unchecked Drummond too, because I don't want any of him tonight. So I was getting around 10%, so it wasn't that much, but
yeah,
I want 0 of him.
Remember when
it actually is a 7 p.m. game too?
Wait, what was that, Jay?
They're both early games, so we'll get that news early.
Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely a strong plus, as we should get it here soon. Welcome to late season NBA, everybody. You're gonna see a lot of names that you don't usually feel great about clicking on. Jay, I'm curious, like, what is your exposure looking like from the Sixers tonight? I'm getting a lot of Butler.
The Sixers,
sure
I have 80% Butler.
Okay, nice. I'm right where you are.
That's all I have.
Then
80% Butler.
you have some Drummond. Do you have any like Edwards or Council?
No. Nope, absolutely none.
Yeah. And
Well, I won't have them because for Scott's process the sliders at 20. So
what's the
I
20
won't
fantasy
get some more
points is where
guys.
it's at. That makes sense. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you'll
20
see
fantasy points.
once some of this injury news comes through too, you'll start to see a little
Yeah,
bit
they'll
more
update. Yeah.
of these guys potentially come up too. I like the Downton call,
Yeah,
Brandon. I'm
definitely.
gonna follow you on that one. Put a 10% min on him and make that happen. I like Bona. He was standing out for me a good bit in the sim model, so I'm just gonna trust that and put a 2% min there and take the like off. He becomes a much better play if Drummond gets ruled out. He won't be sneaky anymore at that point. And then Edwards and Council, they're showing up a little bit for me, right around 2% for Edwards. Council close to 8%, 5 to 8%. Drummond, I'm already pretty under the field on him. I totally understand just unchecking him. Wasn't it earlier this season when we were like, oh, can't wait to play Drummond? I don't even remember what the scenario was where we would be happy about playing him because it feels like a lifetime ago. But
not anymore. Those days are over for now.
Those days are over. Next up, we have some games that start to get a little bit more interesting. We have the Clippers going up against the Hawks. The Clippers, no real injury news that's going to change anything for me. I'll look a little bit closer at it just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, Powell's been out. Simmons is questionable, but, it's Ben Simmons. Not going to change too much. Jay, who are you looking at here, if anybody?
I'm on Harden and Zubac. Zubac and Harden and some Kawhi. I got some Kawhi.
All right. Are you around field weight on those guys? Are you over the field, under the field? Where are you at there?
On Harden, I'm just field weight. I'm a little on the way on Zubac.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I got and Kawhi, I'm even with the field.
For me, I am a little under the field on Kawhi. A lot of that has to do with me prioritizing James Harden tonight. I have a 20% min on him. He's just the stud I trusted the most in this game, on this slate. So I just wanted to make sure I was a little bit over the field on him. And then Zubac, I love the matchup. Capella's not playing tonight. It just makes me feel better about him. So I really want it to be over the field there. I'm even considering increasing my exposure to kind of just make him a true leverage play, forcing 30% Zubac. He could obviously burn me if things don't go the way I expect them to, but I like kind of making a call and solidifying that. Brandon, what are your thoughts here? Any of the Clippers standing out for you?
Yeah, I definitely want exposure to the three main guys in this pace up spot for them. So I have 20% mins on Kawhi, Harden, and Zubac. I think just a great spot. So any three of those guys can pop off. We know the ceiling each one of them have, and then it's a bit harder to get to them tonight, but I figured I at least mention them because I usually like taking low on shots on them, but just kind of hard when you have like cheaper guards like Butler and Ty Jerome around the same price. But Chris Dunn, he plays around 30 minutes, and usually when he has a good night, he can get you like in the upper 30s, which is pretty good for that price point. But his floor is pretty scary, so risky play for sure. But if you're looking for another low-owned value play, I always like taking shots on Dunn in this
We
spot.
got some news. Drummond, Edwards, and Oubre out.
Nice.
They never make it easy. They never make it easy. We'll refresh the DS and look a little bit closer at that once we go through the rest of the slate. But we're playing more Sixers. We already knew we were playing a good amount, but we're going to play more than you even thought you were. I can already tell you that piece. Let's see. For the Atlanta side of things, for me, I have that 30% min on Zubac, 20% min on Harden. Brendan, I think I'm I might follow you and put a 20% min on Kawhi. I'm going to play it by year for a little bit longer, but I'm close to taking that shot because he's still priced relatively well at 8,700. I might be biased because in that Pelicans game, he put up 50 and he hasn't really done that much this season, but it was nice to see it. And he had a break after that game, so it feels a little bit more realistic. So I'm just going to hold off for now, but I like it. Next up, we have the Hawks side of things. Like I said, we already know Capella's out. Let's see, anyone else interesting? Wallace is out. Doesn't change much for me. I don't like this team. I don't have exposure to them. Brandon, do you have much exposure to the Hawks?
I threw a 5% min on Okongwu.
I get that.
For the reason he just sucked for us last game, and with Capella still out, I'm willing to take that shot that he bounces back tonight. So definitely don't mind taking that long shot on him. And then I have some Niang around fill weight, 11%. So don't mind him. If he falls off, I won't do anything to get him back in. But just another cheap guy in the mix who sees a decent amount of minutes. And then I don't think I'm getting anyone else. Nope, right. Just those two.
So, Kimmy, what about you? Any of these Hawks guys showing up?
I got 17% Niang.
Yeah.
And Okongwu. That's it.
And how much Okongwu?
No, 2%.
2%. Not bad. For me, I have 12% Niang, so I'm pretty much right there with you. I have 1% Barlow. Random as hell. I don't think that's going to stay there, but I'll keep an eye out for that. I don't like that play, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, no one else I'm looking at forcing. I think the Okongwu play makes sense, especially after being a dud last time out. No one's going to go back to him, but he is a guy who has shown he has 40, 50-point upside. I just haven't loved picking on Zubac here recently, but solid leverage play for sure. All right, let's see.
I also got 2% Levert.
Karis Levert? What do you like about him?
He just popped up with the process.
Oh, and you said how much 2%. Do you have now?
2%.
Okay, so he's starting to show up a little bit there for you. Another value guy to add in the mix. Oubre, Drummond, Edwards, Dixon, appreciate you. Who we hammering on the Sixers? We'll get there. We got to come back. We already passed them. It'll take too long if we keep doing that. John said definitely not playing Okongwu tonight. He always burns me every time I play him. I'd rather leverage elsewhere. I mean, he's 3% owned. You can put 6% on him. It won't burn you too much, but I get it.
That's when you play him.
Damn it. I freaking hate these situations. I wasn't looking at Okongwu, but whenever someone says something bad about someone, I do this in NFL too, and it works a little bit more often. I just play them. And so, yeah.
Start after dud.
Yeah. Just got to go back to these guys sometimes because they're so good. Next up, we have the game where you're getting most of your core plays from. The Cavs going up against Memphis. For the Cavs tonight, the big piece here is that Donovan Mitchell's out, and the matchup against the Grizzlies just isn't scary. Brandon, who are you playing from here? Everybody?
Yeah, pretty much everybody, at least out of the starters plus Jerome. So, I mean, Mobley, Garland, and Allen are obvious plays. And then Ty Jerome sees the biggest boost whenever Mitchell gets rolled out. So he's projected to play a lot of minutes, and the matchup is great. So definitely don't mind having a lot of him. I am doing an interesting strategy, which if it burns me, then so be it. But I didn't want 4 core plays from this team, which is how it was when I first ran. So there was one I wanted to choose to cap, which I still have a lot, and that's Mobley. I could be wrong. I just have I feel like Chalk Mobley always burns us, and he has the hardest path out of everyone on this team just due to that price. And we need 50 or 51 points for him to make 6 times value. So he hasn't had a game over 50 in quite a while. So he's just the one where I did cap at 45%. So again, I still have a lot of them, but I won't have like 80 or whatever it was before, to where he would completely ruin my night, most likely if I kept that much. So that was kind of one thing I did on my own, but I definitely get it if no one else wants to follow that. So, but yeah, I have a crap ton of this team pretty much.
So often everyone, and I'm one of these people, so I'm not talking bad about anyone. So often, like a lot of us are just like, just play the chalk, and if it burns you, it burns you. Anytime someone has the guts to say, like, you know what, I'm not doing that tonight, I'm always like, you know what, hey, I feel that. I get it. It's taking a risk. It's doing something different than everyone else. Like, I'm always a proponent of taking a shot to get different. That's what's helped me have some of my 6K wins, and so, or 6-figure wins. And so I am a big fan of just getting different. And I kind of agree with you. I was looking at the matchups earlier. The only reason I have this much Evan Mobley currently is because JJJ is questionable. If JJJ gets ruled out, I don't know if anyone on this Grizzlies team can stop the Cavs and their bigs. But if JJJ plays, Evan Mobley does have a tougher route of getting there. And I don't want to take your thunder, Jay. I know you have, I don't know if it's still a lock of the night for you, but I know you have a play you really like.
Man. It's still, I'm locking that cream of the crop in every single entry lineup possible. Jared Allen.
Jared Allen. All right. I hear it. And I think Jared Allen at 6,400 just makes a ton of sense, right? Is that your thought process?
Yeah.
Cool.
He's going to be locked in every single entry. Yeah. And I even have him at, he's at 65% right now in my pool.
Yeah, I like it. And this game starts a little bit later. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern, so we might not have that JJJ news by the time we hit lock. Right now, I have 96% exposure to Evan Mobley. If we don't have that Jaren Jackson Jr. news, I am not going to have 96% exposure to Evan Mobley. That's a little ridiculous for me. I'll probably cap him at 80%. But if Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't play, I'm comfortable having 96% exposure. Yeah. Those are just kind of like my scenarios there. How much Ty Jerome are you seeing show up for you, Jay?
Ty Jerome, I have 70%.
70%. What about you, Brandon?
I capped him at 70 just because there's so many guards. I wanted to even out my exposure to.
Yeah, that's my thought process too. I feel like me being at 83 is just a little bit high given some of the other value we have, and the Sixers news is going to change all of it anyway, so I probably don't even need to. We'll wait and see and make adjustments later. And then Darius Garland is someone I know we all like. He's showing up a ton. How much is he showing up for you, Jay?
He's 62.
Nice. I'm right there with you at 63%. And then Max Strus, is he showing up for y'all at all?
7% for me, which I'm okay with. I'm sure that'll go down with the Sixers news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just refreshed it and update it with the Drummond news.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll come back to it. But yeah, I'm right there around 7% too. And like y'all said, I think that will change as we go throughout the slate. The Grizzlies are a team I'm personally not getting too much exposure to right now. I've been going back and forth on if I want to take a shot on Ja. Again, it's just going to depend on if Jaren Jackson Jr. gets ruled out or not for me. If he misses, I will force exposure to Bane and Ja, primarily because this game has the highest total on the slate, and that's what I always do. But if he plays, I'm a lot less excited to play him. What's your thought process here, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Jaren has to be out again for me to want to take a shot on either one of them. Ja hasn't really been playing consistent enough for me to feel comfortable playing him at that price. And Bane is hit or miss too. Like he can get you close to 60 points, or I think the other night he barely scored like 30 points. So yeah, I've tried to find reasons because it is the highest game total on the slate, but where they're at with their prices, it was just a bit hard to get to them, especially with some of the other guards we have on the slate.
Agreed. Jay, what are your thoughts?
I got 2% Ja, and I really want Bane, but I'm not getting any, and I got to trust the DS.
Okay. And Bane's at 7% ownership too, so like if you want him, you're gonna have to put a little bit of oomph on it. So I agree. Right now, I just can't do it, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Jaren Jackson Jr. news. Let's see. Darius, what's up, man? Yeah, definitely a big money team. I love having everyone here. Mr. 20K, Jay Sikimi is here.
What's up, Darius?
Binkin, Bane price on FanDuel relative to the field. I'm not playing on FanDuel tonight. I don't know if he's priced a little bit better over there.
I can look really quick.
Jay, have you looked at
Yeah. He's only $100 cheaper over there, so it would probably be tough for me over there as well.
Bane's 8,600.
Yep.
Not showing up too much for me yet, but again, can change pretty dramatically based on the news there. Next up, we have another game of the slate. Hornets against the Spurs. Who would have thought that we would get here? But the Hornets have a ton of injuries. The Spurs are just not the same defense without Victor. I don't really want to say without Fox, but they just had a lot of injuries that have burned them from like a defensive standpoint. Hornets have been looking relatively good too, especially about Trey Mann and Kenneth Simpson and all the guys they've had injured. Jay, who are you looking at here from the Hornets? Who's showing up for you?
Chris Paul. I mean,
well, Hornets side.
Yeah. Oh, the other side. The Hornets. I have. Hold on. I got 30% Miles Bridges.
Yep.
And LaMelo Ball.
30% LaMelo too.
15% LaMelo and 28% Bridges.
Okay, 28.
That's it. Yeah.
Are you getting any Daquan Jeffries?
No. I got 2% Mark Williams. No Jeffries for some reason.
Probably with that last run, maybe. Brandon, what are your thoughts here of the Hornets?
I love Bridges. He's in great form. Like the last 4 or 5 games, he's been getting in between 50 and 60 DraftKings points. So he's still kind of at the price where if he can get another 60 burger, there's still some meat on the bone. Mm-hmm. Definitely like Jeffries. Another great value play tonight. He's been playing over 30 minutes and smashing. I mean, he's not going to be the most electrifying player, of course, but at 3,400, he's been doing enough to pay that off and help you win in some of your lines. And then I'm not, or actually, let me double check before I say that, but I actually 5% LaMelo, but I'd be fine if I had none. It's crazy to me that his price keeps going up, and he really has not been that great since coming back from that last injury. So I know that potential is there, but I just think there's better guards tonight.
He's just pricey at 9,800. Like you said, the price tag keeps going up. Can he break the slate? Easily? Yeah, the matchup's not tough against the Spurs team. It's pretty neutral, but it's hard to get overly excited about him. But he's not a bad play by any means. I'm not going out my way to fade him. Mark Williams, though, I think is getting a little slept on. People like Mark Williams wasn't showing up for me by himself, so I had to force him in there. I think if you put like a 10-15% min, you're doing solid work. I put a 20% min on him, forced him to be a leverage play because I do like him that much. The Spurs are giving up the third most fantasy points to bigs, and Mark Williams has been in fantastic form over the last few games. He's still a volatile player. You still can't trust him, but I'm willing to take a shot on him in a really good spot. And then I didn't have a min on Miles Bridges, but he wasn't showing up for me as much naturally. And so I'm going to follow y'all's lead and just try to make sure I have a little bit more of him showing up here. And then let's see. And then Jeffries is showing up for me in about 41% of my lines, and that feels appropriate. I'm comfortable being over the field, but he's still a 3,400 for a reason type of player where I just don't want so much where he's going to become a core player or anything like that. So that's pretty much it for me there. Binkin is asking, is Jokic out? If Jokic is out, how great of a play is Porter Jr. with no Gordon? I think a really good play on FanDuel for sure. Brandon, do you have thoughts here?
Yeah, I always love taking shots on MPJ, especially with no Gordon. So I'd definitely be okay with that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jay? Do you feel like you agree or disagree?
I agree. You definitely got to go MPJ.
Yeah. And then bigs against the Hornets. We'll get there. Good question though, JM. For the Spurs, this is just a team that's been just battered with injuries. That's why you're seeing a lot of these players show up, and then you have the nice mixture of a great matchup against the Hornets too. So I'm curious to see, Jay, how many of these Spurs are you seeing showing up in your lines?
I have a lot. I got Castle, Paul, Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Barnes, Sohan. I have them all.
It's like, who don't we have?
Yeah.
When you look at like your exposures, are you close to field weight exposure on them? Are you a little under the field,
No,
over the field?
I'm over the field on. I'm over the field on Paul, Vassell, Keldon Johnson. I'm over the field on all of them.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Brandon, what are the Spurs looking like for you?
Kind of same boat. I mean, this is another great team to get value. If you just go through majority of these guys, they're priced great, and it's a great matchup. Should be fast paced. Of course, Castle is probably my favorite play on the team, and is currently a core play. We've seen many times when he gets in a situation, he usually balls out. So I think that'll happen tonight. And then everybody else, I'm over the field. Vassell, Johnson, CP3, Sohan. I'm field weight on him 15%. And then that might be it. I'm always hesitant to play Barnes, but he's showing up around 10%. And then I have like 1% of Champagne. I'm not too thrilled about him. So, yeah, I have majority of this team tonight.
Yeah, it's just a good spot for these guys. If you want a guy I'm least excited about, it's Chris Paul. He's just always boring to me. He's older. They're playing for absolutely nothing. I don't love him too much. But Castle is a core play for me as well. Vassell, I'm over the field. Keldon Johnson, I'm over the field. Chris Paul, I'm under the field. I didn't X him out. He's still showing up, but I'm only at 16%, and that's preferred for me. If he goes off, I have 24 lines that will be alive and thriving. If he doesn't, which for me is more likely, I have a shit ton of lines still in a pretty good spot. Champagny, I just put a like on because the sim model liked him a little bit, and he's showing up right around field weight exposure, which is the scenario where I would keep a like on a player because I don't want to be over the field on him because he's not great, but he's shown signs of life before in the past. End of season NBA. I don't think Chris Paul is going to play too much tonight. I feel a little bit better about having exposure to a guy like Champagny. Harrison Barnes, I did absolutely nothing to. He's showing up in 10% of my lines. And then Sohan is showing up in 7% of my lines. I'm a little nervous about that. Brandon, did you do anything to Sohan to make him show up a little bit more for you, or you just kind of
No, I still haven't reran either with the Philly news, so I'm sure he'll drop. But no, he was naturally showing up at 15%.
Yeah, he hasn't been as good either. So I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
I'm definitely fine with not having exposure to him.
Yeah, and then Jay, what about you? Or how much Sohan do you have?
I have 22%, just over the field.
So you're just over the field. Sweet.
Yeah,
And then, like we keep saying, news will continue to shake things up a little bit.
yeah, I'm
for
sure
the
it's going
Mavs-
to change up. Yeah.
Yeah. For the Mavs versus the Rockets, this is a game I thought I would maybe like more, but I ended up not getting as much exposure to it. On the Mavs side, when it comes to injury news, we know they've been another team that's just had a lot of injuries. PJ Washington is questionable. Brandon Williams is questionable. Dante Exum is questionable. These are pieces of news that do hold some weight on this slate if they all ended up getting ruled out. But if it's just individually, I don't think it will move things too much for me. But Jay, who are you looking at here?
Right now, I have no exposure to the Mavs. Not paying 8K for Najee Marshall, and only Brandon Williams if he starts.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just a tough spot for these guys, and the matchup isn't great. Game total is one of the lower ones on the slate. Spread is wide. It wouldn't shock me if one of these guys, like maybe Clay or PJ, came through, but hard for me to get overly excited about it. Are we missing something here, Brandon?
Yeah, this team is very unappealing tonight. If Brandon Williams does play, you can make a case for him because he's just been in great form. But at that increased price, I just can't do it tonight in this spot. And again, with all the other guards we have, especially the cheaper ones, I just can't do it. And I think it's comical when I see that 8K price on Najee. I know he's had a couple of 60-point games, but yeah, definitely can't go there. And then Clay is always man. So yeah, this team overall is probably gonna be a fade for me.
Yeah. Binkin, I hear you. It does feel like a night where Spurs value will burn us, but the core plays now and the guys who are standing out now have been a little bit more consistent than some of like the random Spurs value we've been playing a little bit earlier in the season, but we'll see. Jason, I see your question. We'll get to it at the end of the show. Next up, we have the Rockets side of things, which is a little bit more appeasing or appealing just because we know the Mavs are a god-awful defense. Brandon, are you looking at any of these Rockets?
Surprisingly not. I just didn't like this side of the ball either, to be honest. Let me see if I have anybody showing up. I have like 6% Brooks, 5% Eason, 1% Jabari. That's about it. But I didn't really force anyone in here.
Jay, are you seeing anyone come show up in your lines?
I got 18% Eason. I got 15% Brooks. Sengun he's just too high, 10K, but I mean, I have 3%. Mm-hmm. And Jabari Smith, I have 7%. That's about it.
Nice. I do feel like if you want some sneaky plays, it's not awful taking shots on the Rockets. Like even that 3% Sengun, I would not like, and I know you wouldn't do this, Jay, but if someone else is seeing that and they're getting a little bit nervous, I wouldn't X him out because he could definitely explode against this bad defense. I'm not going there. I'm not getting exposure currently, but I don't hate the play. For me, when I was looking at the sim model, Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams were showing up a bit. You all know I really don't like Dylan Brooks, especially when we get closer towards the end of the season. That's when he's pissed me off the most. And so not my favorite play. I am going to cap him at 20% because with the like, he's showing up a bit more. And I do like seeing him show up at 4,900, just a solid value play in my mind. And then Steven Adams is super risky, but he's shown some signs of life over the last few games. I put a like on him to see if he would show up a little bit more for me. And he's showing up in 1% of my lines, which I can live with. Kind of like you all, I have a little bit of exposure to Easton and Jabari as well. I don't hate any of the Rockets. It's just hard for me to value them over some of the other plays we have on the slate. All right, last game, probably the worst game, but maybe we can find some sneaky plays here. Next up, we have the Magic going up against the Timberwolves. For the Magic tonight, they have Jalen Suggs out. KCP is questionable. Cole Anthony is questionable. Jay, are you seeing any of the Magic show up for you?
Just 17% Wendell Carter. And I got Paolo at 2%.
Okay. What about you, Brandon? You like any of these guys?
I put a 10% min on Wendell. He's just another guy who was a dud for us last night or the night before, whenever that last game was. So just going right back to him at 4,800 minutes will be there, and he'll definitely be needed in this spot tonight. So hopefully he can bounce back. And then I thought about Cole, but I couldn't get there for the same reason I've been saying this whole show is just think there's better guards out there. And then I did consider Paolo and Franz, mainly Paolo because I prefer him. I think his upside is higher, but I couldn't get there in this matchup tonight.
Yeah, it was a little surprising for me that Wendell Carter Jr. wasn't showing up more. I agree with you. I'll put a 10% min on him, and I had a 15% min on Cole. I'll lower that to 10%. I like him a little bit less with some of the other value we have on the slate now, too. And then Paolo and Franz, the only... If this was like a hammer game and, you know, it was like the only game starting at 10:30, I would probably force some Paolo exposure because nothing would piss me off more than being in first place and then having a Paolo or Franz line coming up behind me. But with all these games starting at 8, I'm not gonna force it. I don't love the spot too much. But
I'm actually, because the sim model just made my decision. I'm putting the 5% min on him because he's even looking good on the sim model. So
okay, I'll pull up the sim. Let me see what you see. Let me see. Paolo, yeah. Did I miss? Oh yeah, the 2.82%.
yep.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier, and I was like, do I like Paolo a little bit more? But I was like, I like Miles Bridges. I think I would just want to force more exposure to Miles. But let me see. I mean, Miles isn't a core play for me or anything like that right now. I do have that 21% min. I'm going to increase my Miles min to 30 to try and force that difference. But I'm also just kind of being stubborn at this point, too. I'm going to put a 5%, 6% min on Paolo, too. It just makes sense from when looking at the percentages, like 2.82% chance of hitting 6.5x. We all like Miles Bridges. There's like an 8% difference there. And then we just look at the ownership of Paolo in comparison to Miles Bridges. It just becomes a no-brainer for me. Miles is a better play, but just because Paolo's so unowned with relatively similar upside in their price range, I'm going to do that every time. I think that's a good call. Anyone else you think we're missing, Jay? Anyone else stand out for you here before we go to the Timberwolves?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I got 5% Cole Anthony, but he's questionable. We're gonna wait on that. But that's it.
I like Cole too. Cole was a sim model play for me as well. He was just standing out in the sim, and I was like, yeah, I'll be a little bit over the field on him. All right, next up we have the Timberwolves side of things. This team has been frustrating all year long. Matchup's not the best, which means Anthony Edwards probably goes off tonight, right? That's what usually happens. What are you doing, Brandon? Are you playing any Ant?
I considered it, but I'm probably not going to force him in tonight. He's just been a little too inconsistent, and it's hard to stomach inconsistency at this price tag. And I consider Randall too, but he's kind of in the same boat. So just due to the ownership, if you wanted to play any of these guys, mainly the starters, I don't hate it, and I wouldn't tell you not to, but just not something I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, I really would want to tell you not to, but then I would have pie on my face because that's just the way these things go. Sometimes if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't mean it won't happen. What about you, Jay? Are you seeing any of these Timberwolves show up?
I got 2% Randall, McDaniels 2%, Gobert 2%. I don't have no Edwards, but if KCP is out, it might be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely makes the matchup softer if he does get ruled out. And for Ant, all he needs is a little bit of an edge, and then he can go off. So, yeah, for me, for the Timberwolves tonight, they're not showing up at all. I'm not going to force it right now. But I do think a 4% min on Ant isn't crazy. If I didn't like James Harden as much as I do in that matchup against Trey, which I will always attack, then I can maybe consider Ant a little bit more, but it just doesn't make sense for me at this point. All right, let's go look at some of the questions we've gotten. And then I also want to see what we did in the DS with the Sixers to see if I like it. Brandon, have you seen anyone or anything stand out yet from the Sixers side of things? It looks like almost all these guys are popping a ton.
Yeah, my run is almost done, so I'm getting ready to find out. So yeah, Council is popping up, and Jeff Doughton too. So they're looking like they're going to be core plays.
Yeah, and much chalkier. Remember when we were like, oh yeah, sneaky Doughton.
Yeah.
Sneaky Bona. I mean, I doubt Bona's going to be sneaky at this point. I think he'll show up in a lot of lines as well. Sikimi, have you seen any of these guys show up for you more in your runs?
I'm running it right now.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Oh, DJ, how fun. A game time decision from JJJ. Binking said, think I would rather have Bane versus Edwards at that price. I agree. And it becomes another no-brainer if JJJ gets ruled out.
Yep.
You're playing Paolo and Banchero. You're playing Banchero and Miles together. Yeah, I like that. I don't hate that. Anyone else keep landing on Banchero as the last pick? Hey, we were talking about him. We like him. Didn't think I would going into the slate, but here we are. All right, so for me, Jarrett Butler, Ricky Council, and Doughton, like you said, Brennan, are all core plays. Yabusele is showing up for me as of right now above ownership, but again, I think our ownership's a little outdated as of right now. Bona is only showing up in 18% of my lines. I'm willing to increase this, potentially depending on ownership. And Alex Reese is showing up in 1% of my lines. What are you seeing, Jay?
1 second.
No worries.
Right now I have 85% Council, 100% Butler, and 42% Doughton,
Nice.
and 25% Bona, and 20% Yabusele.
Nice. So I think it looks like we're pretty aligned on our plays so far. Brandon, anything standing out for you, like some ownership that you think you might try to
I'm
exposure?
not getting as much Bona as I want, so I'm probably going to increase that a bit. And then I unchecked Yabusele too. I don't want any of him tonight.
The crazy part is you're not wrong. Like some of these guys, like Drummond and Yabusele, have just been god awful. So I don't hate that uncheck. I don't know if I'll do it. I just need to look a little bit closer at it. But for Bona, how much exposure do you think you're trying to force? Because I like him. I liked him even before the news, and so I'm just gonna try my best to have a lot.
I'm probably gonna get around 40% of him.
See, I was thinking 30. I was like, 30 feels about right, relatively safe, not too crazy. 40 is when you can piss me off a little bit. It's like, all right, Bona, if you're not coming through at this point, you might be dead to me, but we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, I don't hate that.
I might even get more.
What were you saying, Brandon?
I said I might even get more than 40. We'll see. I'm playing around with it.
Wow.
Oh god. All right, we'll see. We'll keep an eye out. If you all are interested in seeing how everyone's changing their adjustments, what exposures they have, we're all in the Discord. Feel free to reach out. You can use promo code BDUB, BDUBB for a 10% discount to have access to the Domination Station, to see the process that Jay follows of Sky, and to, be able to talk and tilt and celebrate the wins that we have been having. Hopefully we can keep
to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anything
Scott
else you want to
Newman's
say?
the GOAT.
Yeah. Anything you want to say, Jay, before we go our separate ways for a little bit here?
Just follow that Scott's process. Whoever's following it, you're not gonna win every day, but as long as you trust it, you keep riding it, you're gonna have a heater. You're just gonna keep coming.
B-Dub, any last thoughts?
Not too much, like you said. Definitely, if you're a member, just keep an eye out in the Discord. I'll definitely be posting my core soon. If you're not a member, not sure what you're waiting for, but definitely give us a shot, and hopefully we won't disappoint you. So that's about it for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate the support, y'all.
Also, hit that like and subscribe.
Yeah, hit the like and subscribe button. Those numbers have been a little low lately. But yeah, if y'all could do that, we'll see you next week. Peace out, y'all.